Is it safe? I heard it's a bad country, and isn't it dangerous there? These are the biggest things that people ask us before we go to literally any country for some reason. And even though security is very important, it shouldn't be something that completely limits your travel. So today we're going to be talking about tips on how to stay safe when traveling abroad.
If you haven't seen us before, we're Eric and Sarah, and we've been traveling full-time for the last year and a half, and we are currently doing a series all about different travel tips for helping you to plan your next trip.
That's right, and we've primarily been traveling throughout Latin America, and seriously the biggest questions that we always get is just, is it dangerous? If you go to Guatemala, Ecuador, Peru, even Costa Rica, people are always worried about us. And so we just want to just lay it all out on the table of how to stay safe, how we've stayed safe, and how you can stay safe. So we're going to start off with the biggest tip, which is if you are ever threatened, if someone ever comes up to you and says, give me your phone, give me your wallet, you do it. You give that person your stuff. Seriously, that is the best way that you can stay safe. Someone comes up to you with a knife or another weapon, just give them your stuff. You don't want to get hurt. That is like, you can replace your wallet, you can replace your phone. Is it annoying? Yes, but it is better than getting hurt, and you can just replace those things.
For the record, we've never had this happen, thankfully, but if we ever do, we will just be giving them what we have.
That's right.
Tip number 2 is something we mentioned in a previous video up here, and that is to always ask the locals about security. We recommend this so much because we always find that the locals actually know how dangerous certain areas are, and they can give you good recommendations. And our rule is always, if a local tells us not to go to this area of town or to avoid somewhere at a certain time of day, we always trust them because they are the ones that actually live there full time, and their goal is always to keep tourists safe. They want travelers to enjoy their country, so they're always going to give you the accurate information. And so just always ask locals when you get to a new country about different cities and where you should be going and different security tips.
And our next tip for staying safe while traveling is about bags. So you're going to want to keep your bag on you as much as possible, especially during travel days. Your best bet is just to have your bag on your back, on your front, have your eyes on your bag all the time, or at least just a body part on it. The biggest thing is that if you leave your bag unattended, people are just going to take it. Like, there's just no question about it. You just have to know where all of your stuff is at all times. Ideally, you have one kind of big bag with most of your stuff in it, and then you have one side bag, say with like your passport and your cash and stuff like that. So you just want to keep that stuff with you as much as possible.
Yeah, keep your valuables as close to your body as possible, whether it's in a bag or zippered pockets or hidden somewhere in an inner pocket. Like, keep your actual valuable things as close to your body as possible so that if someone does happen to steal something from your back, it's not as big of a deal. We also recommend purchasing some little locks that you can buy to lock up your bag, especially if you're walking around like a bus or something. You can get these little locks. Obviously, if someone has a knife, they can slash your bag and steal stuff, but it kind of just deters the people that are just pickpocketing out of convenience, that it's like, oh, I can unzip this quickly.
Just an extra step to keep them from getting to your stuff.
Yeah.
And this leads us into buses. So with your bags, especially when you go onto a bus or any type of transportation, you want to just make sure that your bag is with you. Sometimes, at least when we were in South America, it was okay to put our bigger bags underneath, but only if the driver was the one who was handling it. The driver knows whose bag is where. They'll often give you a tag. It's okay to put it underneath. What's not okay is to put it above you. So when you're sitting in a plane, it's fine. You put your stuff in the overhead carry and it's totally chill. But when you get on a bus, you will just put that up there and someone will just walk by and grab your bag.
It's gonna be gone.
Your bag's gone. Even under your seats as well. You put it under your seat, you might think it's fine, but you don't know what's going on. The person behind you might come underneath and cut right through and grab all your stuff. We have had so many people tell us this is exactly how they get robbed.
Really, this is the only place that we've had other travelers tell us they've gotten stuff stolen is on buses, because they put their stuff above or below. So our recommendation is always keep your valuables in a bag on you, literally on your lap, or sometimes we put it between our legs, but we have our legs through the straps of the bag so someone can't just steal it from under your seat. Like, just keep your valuables on you. It maybe makes for a little bit more of an uncomfortable drive, but then if you fall asleep or something, you have them on you and somebody's not gonna snipe it if your like arms are around it. It seems a bit overkill, but you will not regret it. So our next tip also has to do with transportation, and this is that whenever possible, we try to avoid arriving in a new place in the dark. This is for flights or buses or just any transportation. We do not like navigating a place with all of our baggage late at night, trying to find a hotel or an Airbnb. We feel like that just leaves you really vulnerable to people on the street. So whenever possible, try to always book things that arrive during the daytime, because I don't know, it just is an extra added safety that you're not just tired and walking around in the middle of the dark in a new place that you don't know.
That's right.
Okay, our next tip is about keeping your passports and money safe. So there's a number of different ways you can do this. The first thing we recommend is trying to leave as much as you can at your Airbnb and hostel when you don't need it, especially if you're going on a day trip. Obviously, kind of feel out what your hostel is like. We often have private rooms or places with safes, so we can leave things there and not worry about it. If you have a huge communal, like, hostel room where there's nowhere safe to keep it, obviously don't leave all of your stuff in your bed. That's not a smart idea either. But if it's possible, try to leave your stuff at your accommodations in a locked area or in a safe spot, because then when you're walking around for the day, you only have what you actually need, which should just be a little bit of money and maybe a credit card, not your passport or excess money.
That's right.
If that makes sense. And as far as when you're walking around on a day trip, there's a few things you can do. For example, try to keep things in separate pockets. So when Eric and I are traveling, we'll have a little bit of money in different pockets. We'll have obviously each of our phones in our own pocket, and just a copy of our passport maybe in different pockets, so that you don't have all of your stuff in one spot. So if someone steals something from one pocket, you're not just out of luck because they took all of your stuff for the day. And another thing we've talked about in a previous video is just always making copies of all of your documents, especially your passport and other things. You can watch that video here if you want. But those are also a really helpful way to have different copies and swap with a companion if you're traveling with someone else, so that if something happens, you do always have double documentation of everything.
And before we move on, we should let you know that all these tips are in the description. We have basically a Google Drive document that you can just download, and you just have all these tips right there. We would really appreciate if you want to support this channel, to subscribe and watch more of these tips videos if you find them useful. And if you would really like to, you can send us a coffee. It just kind of also supports this channel and keeps us making videos. Our next tip is about phone use. Now, what's cool about today is that your phone is your camera. Your phone, you can just take it with you. You can just take all your cool photos, put them on Instagram, all the cool TikToks that kids are doing these days, maybe some YouTube videos. And
I don't know what that was.
But the only thing is that you don't want to be taking your phone out all the time. Try to keep it in your pocket as much as possible. If you see something cool to take a photo, just pull out your phone, take a photo, put it back in your pocket. We've heard of people just basically holding their phone out and they're taking pictures and they're trying to do all the videos and whatever, and all of a sudden someone comes by and swipes their phone out of their hand because they're not paying attention. Luckily for us, we are two people, and we basically just have one person will maybe have the phone out taking photos, and then the other person's either looking out for it or just kind of
just one person on watch. Even if we're looking at maps or trying to call an Uber, one person is doing that on their phone, focused on that, and the other person's just kind of like being aware, just making sure no one's coming close and going to run by and just snipe a phone. And just be aware, once your phone is out in public, people do know it's there. So the chances are higher, even on a bus or something, of someone stealing your phone if they've already seen that it exists.
The next thing is that you just need to trust your instincts. When you're going down the street in some random country and you start feeling like, okay, maybe there's some people here that they don't really look like they're up to any good, that's probably a good instinct. Maybe just don't walk on the same side of the street as those people.
Just trust your spidey senses. If you end up in a part of town that you just feel like something feels a little off, like that's a natural instinct. Maybe it's fine. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But just trust that, and maybe just remove yourself from a scenario. If you're feeling that way, just trust your instincts.
Follow that.
The next tip is just don't do what you wouldn't do at home. I feel like I personally get asked this a lot as a woman. People will be like, oh, well, like, do you feel safe as a woman to walk around at night in the dark? And I'm like, I never do that at home, in my hometown. I don't do that. And maybe there's some women out there that do, or you live in a really safe place and that's fine. But I honestly do not ever do that. I don't walk around at 2 a.m. because I would not feel safe in my hometown. And so I don't do that in another country. The same rules apply. Do the same things you do at home to ensure your safety, especially as a female traveler. Try to make friends, try not to go places alone. Applies to solo travelers in general. Some places will be safer than others, and just be smart, do your research. And like if you're gonna go somewhere new, make sure you look at a map ahead of time so you know where you're going. Just all the things that you do at home to stay safe, just do them abroad as well.
And one of the biggest tips that we have for you is to watch out for scams. There are so many scams out there. It's actually crazy. Like,
some of them are pretty genius.
They're
honestly.
pretty smart, and like you don't even know you're scammed until it's done.
Yeah.
So our biggest thing is, if you're really worried about scams, which some places you might want to be, just Google the place that you're going to and then just type in typical scams after that. So for example, like when we were in Costa Rica, a big thing was that when you go to Manuel Antonio Park, you drive through, and before you get to the park, there's people there that are saying, hey, you know, like you need to buy your tickets.
And they're wearing official vests and whistles and
saying, yeah,
badges.
no, you need to buy this and you need to do it. And it seems pretty official, right? And it's not.
It's a big scam.
It's a huge scam. Like they're just basically just getting like 20 extra bucks from you.
And they're gonna make you park like 2 kilometers down the road, and you have to walk into the park.
You walk in, then you have to pay for the park again. Some places they just won't ever fix that. That's just something that happens. So just make sure you're very diligent with that type of stuff. And then the other thing is scams for actually just stealing your stuff. We've had friends again on buses where people will team up. One person will maybe trip and kind of you'll be like, oh hey, like let me help you up, and then there's the other person that comes and takes your stuff out of there
while you're distracted.
While you're distracted because you're just being a good person and they're not. So
a common one is like people spilling ketchup or like some sort of condiment on you, and then while they're helping you wipe it up and offering their napkin, someone's behind you stealing something from your bag. It's crazy.
It's crazy. So so just really just look up scams. And I know it's hard to not be a good person sometimes, but if something like that happens, your best bet is just to walk away. I know it hurts, but just
be really aware that these things are happening.
Yeah.
So those are 10 tips that we would recommend for security, but obviously there are so many other things you can do. So if you have a really good tip for safety, please comment it below so other travelers can learn from you as well, because we want everyone to be safe and just enjoy their travels as much as possible.
That's right. And for the bonus, our bonus tip for today is do not let fear stop you. Seriously, I know we were talking about all these crazy things that can happen, but seriously, like hardly any of this has ever happened to us.
Yeah.
Like we've been traveling for 1.5 years, and if you can stay diligent, keep your head on a swivel, just make sure that you're not just like roaming around looking like you don't know what you're doing.
The world is an amazing place, and there are so many wonderful people. Like, yes, we're sharing stories of people that are doing awful things, but like the majority of people you meet in countries are just so wonderful. They want to help you, and they want you to be safe. They want you to enjoy their country. So don't let the fear of any of these things freak you out from traveling. As long as you physically are safe, that's the number one thing. If something gets stolen from you, if someone takes your phone or a little bit of money, don't let that even just ruin your trip either. Just be aware that, like, take a beat and just be like, well, that sucks, but also just be able to move on from that and be like, these things are replaceable. I'm still gonna enjoy my travels. This one person isn't the whole population of this country. And just, don't let any of this fear stop you, because the world is so beautiful. It's a safe place to explore, and you really should just go to new countries.
That's right, go check it out.
And now that you know all of our tips for how to stay safe in a new country, check out this video for how to have the best travel day possible. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming travel tip videos.
We'll see you in the next one.